And he had tears in his eyes. And he says, I haven't been here for 5 years. We moved and but he's back. And he said, this place saved my life. I've heard that a number of times. Those days I feel good about.
Hello, this is Jamie Sparling. Welcome to the FormABLE Podcast. Hit the like, subscribe button, all that good stuff. Today, I have one of my teachers and one of the best martial arts teachers in the country, if not the world, in my opinion. His name is Guro Rick Faye. He is the owner and head instructor of MKG, the Minnesota Kali Group in Minneapolis. Hey, Sifu, how you doing?
Doing well today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Surviving the snow.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I don't know if it counts as a workout, and I guess if I have to ask, it doesn't count, but we shoveled 2 feet of snow off of our new flat roof.
Saw that, yeah.
And oh my goodness, sir, right? We did jujitsu for an hour, me and Tina in our home gym, and then we're like, we're gonna go do Silat afterwards. And both of us just looked at each other.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, not so much. It's an honor to have you back on the show. It's been 40 episodes
Oh,
since I
wow.
had you on, and we've had a lot of different guests and had a lot of different opinions and ideas brought up on the show. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was I remember you being teaching a seminar and talking about how this ecological method of martial art and jujitsu was actually built into Kali since the very beginning. And I didn't see it until I went back. Sometimes when I'm coming home on the drive to Wisconsin is when everything's downloading, right? I have 3 or 4 things I'm like, I definitely want to work on that. And then I thought about one of the drills you teach when we're doing Heaven Six, and we start by doing three with one person, three with one person, and then three with one person, three with one person while looking in the middle. And this progression that you took us through, and I was like, holy, what? That is the ecological method that so many talk about.
That's certainly a piece of it. There's a couple of ways to take this ecological idea. One of which is if you're training accomplished athletes, what you want them to do is you want to put them in a situation where they have to problem solve.
Mm-hmm.
So we were lucky enough to be attached to a man named Sean Mitska, and that's where we got a lot of the NFL players coming in. And he's really almost the founder of, I would say he is the founder of the ecological movement. And that whole set of ideas where rather than go through prescribed exercises and drills, we put them in a situation where they have to problem solve. Well, as that relates to Kali, that's a lot of this art. We have a lot of formal training. You have to learn certain moves and whatever, but sooner or later you have to free flow and you have to problem solve. And it's chaotic. That's one of the things he told us with the NFL guys. He said, I want them to feel chaos all the time.
Hmm.
So well, I can do that. We got, because yeah, the NFL is basically 5 seconds of chaos, is what it is. And so that idea that you can put someone in an environment and let them problem solve movement problems or movement things presupposes that they've had the training and the structures to do so.
Sure.
So we operate a little more in that end where we're still building structures, ideas, basic types of movement. We're not dealing with in a martial arts sense with NFL caliber people. We're
Sure.
back here with the grade school kids learning how to line up and or this is a football, this is how you hold it, that sort of thing. And that's a lot of what we do. You can't take uh, an athlete, let's call them. I know some people like student or whatever, but you can't take a person who doesn't have the skills in that realm and ask them to problem solve in that realm. It would be like me saying, okay, Janie, I'd like to have an argument in Russian. Go. Right? I don't know Russian either, so it'd be a pretty short, right? Same here. I see people on the mat, in the kickboxing, even in weaponry, asking people with less exposure, less skill development to then problem solve. And what they're going to do is they're going to use very base skills. They're going to just do sort of a made up version of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really going to be martial art. And that's where I separate with it. Now, on the other end, if you're dealing with accomplished athletes, they should spend some time on fundamentals. I'll
Yes,
keep
sir.
using the NFL as an analogy. The great coaches, Bill Belichick, these other guys, they started their training camps with blocking and tackling and how to kind of thing. Well, these are professional athletes. They know that, but he wanted to reinforce that. That's martial art. So even that advanced person, whoever he or she is, needs to work their basics constantly. You know, what is an inside deflection, outside deflection? What is a jab and a cross, an uppercut, etc.? What is a basic turnover this way, basic arm bars, basic heel hold, whatever it is. So you need to work your basics, but then you also, at that level, need to be in situations where you're problem solving, where it's
Yeah.
unpredictable. It has to simulate closely the competition. Now, the difference between the competition itself, and I'll separate out martial art in a minute, but
Yes,
the
sir.
competition itself and training is training needs to be injury free. And this is where a lot of the MMA guys were still learning that, right? And they've really accomplished it now. You know, most of the MMA guys that I know at a high level aren't sparring a lot. Now, when I say sparring, I mean heavy shots, right?
Yes, sir.
They're moving a lot with other people and they're tapping each other a little bit, but in takedowns and whatever, but it's safe. So back to the NFL analogy, when we had Adrian Peterson, one of the greatest running backs in history, if you were a rookie linebacker and you came to practice and you injure Adrian Peterson on a Wednesday, you're gone. Your locker's cleaned out on Thursday morning. So
Mm-hmm.
that league is very much like that. The Thai boxing groups are like that. So you get in the Muay Thai, Master Chai used to say this all the time. You get these kids who are literally going to try to kill each other in the ring on Friday night. But during the week, they go very lightly, very lightly. Everybody we've had that's gone to Thailand gets told one thing right away: relax, go slow, go
Mm.
easy, you know, like that. And then, I mean, they kick the pads hard and all that, but it's all about relaxation. So we have this interesting mix of things that we have to get done as martial art instructors. The ecological approach comes in at the higher level when we can actually just let them flow. And then what I'm experiencing now, especially with my phase 2 class, the advanced class, is I put them in an environment. Okay, I want you to break in, I want you to break out. When you do this, here's what you're looking for. And then I see a whole raft of basic skills that we need to go back and cover before we can go back to the scenario, if you will, or the environment that I set. And then we can go back there and try again. And you'll find this over and over in martial art. You think, okay, I've got this solved. Now let's roll, let's see. And then some piece of it just doesn't produce itself. It doesn't come out. All right, back to the drawing board we go. So it's funny, one of your questions that you sent, that's going to be my answer is when you said, what should martial artists work on right now? Precision. Go back,
Precision.
work your basics. All the things that you have and you think you have knocked, I've got this down, it's mine. Go back and work it again.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
I joke that someday on my deathbed, I will finally understand the right cross. You know, it's like maybe I'll get there and I'll finally understand how all of this works. You know, Bruce Lee had the original formulation for Jeet Kune Do was 3 levels. And number 1 was synchronization with self. Number 2 is synchronization with a partner, that's your regular training partner. And number 3 was synchronization with all partners. So
Mhm.
any kind of person, any kind of thing. But that first one is really important. And I'm not sure anymore that we give, let me think about this before I say it.
Sure.
I don't know that we give enough attention to the basic mechanics and things like that. We jump into drills right away because that's where the fun is, that's where the money is, etc. But you know, the old when did you have a classical background? Did you go through a classical martial art?
No, sir.
So if you went through a Wing Chun system, a karate system, something like that, you did hundreds and hundreds of basics, you know, blocks and punches and whatever in the forms. We don't have that. And so this idea of Carenza, do you remember during COVID when we had 30 for 30?
30. Yes.
Body within your art for 30 minutes every day, right?
Yes, sir.
And it was a 30-day challenge. And people really improved. They were really, because now they're actually moving just at their home, but they're moving within their art for 30 minutes. So there's a lot to be worked on, all sorts of connections and ideas that you can work on in yourself. So that was my idea there. The first one was just precision.
Yeah.
I have some other ideas with that, but I'll wait till at the end. But
Yeah.
so back to the ecological approach. I think it's a great movement. Sean Mitzka, like I said, is sort of the founder of that and is one of the smartest people on the planet. Absolutely. If anybody gets a chance to look up Sean Mitzka, he is really, really something. He's the premier, they call him the movement guru, or the movement Miyagi is what they call him.
Really?
Yeah, but he's the premier movement trainer in the NFL. And you get people coming to him, like I said, Adrian Peterson, Everson Griffin, Red Ellison, all of these big names, right, will come to him and they say it. Their training with him is what makes the difference. So that ecological approach at the top, we need that. But as martial artists, we need all the other fill-in stuff all the way back to the beginning. And then, actually, I'll tie this into my answer for your last question. The most difficult lesson in martial arts is time. Father Time is undefeated. And so sooner or later, your body's going to degrade. Life is going to happen to you. I was the guy, Jamie. I honestly was arrogant enough in my youth. Not even youth. When I was 40, I was in the best shape of my life. My 40s were fantastic. And then life started to happen. A whole bunch of life.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's more about age and whatever it is. Everybody's got something different. We all have a different challenge. So that is the most difficult lesson I think that I took from martial art is you're not going to be this way all the time. I thought I'd make it. At 40, I was arrogant enough to think, I'm going to skate this. I'm nobody's Guru Dan, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking, okay, not a chance. God looked down and said, I got something else in mind for you.
Yeah.
And we all have challenges that we have to overcome. How's that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Sometimes you will speak of a conversation with Guru Dan about that slope.
Yes.
Yeah. Could you tell our viewers and listeners about that conversation, sir?
Well, I love Guru. He is absolutely the greatest martial art influence of our time or many generations.
Yes, sir.
We won't see another one like him for a long time. But we had a conversation about, because martial arts is a funny thing. The development of it, when you're in the middle of the development stage, you think you're working hard. You think, oh man, this is it. I'm putting all this work in. This is great. I'm going to get all this down. And that's just the rise, right? Like this. And then you get to the maintenance stage and you have to try to maintain this art because we're not just athletes for a season. Everyone that is involved in the NFL jokes about one thing. NFL stands for not for long.
Wow.
And that's true. It is not for long. You're not going to be in it for very long. We, on the other hand, I'm going to be in this until, you look at Guru, he's 90 now. We're just about to be 90. And he's still teaching. He still moves a bit. I talked to him the other day. He's still trying to train and work out in different ways, and you have to adjust. But what he said, Rick, is he says, you don't want to go up like this and then just drop. And I'm thinking, oh, good, he's going to tell me something really nice now, right? Like this is going to be a pat on the head and it's okay, that kind of thing. He goes, you want to just kind of go like that. And I think what he was preparing me for is that we're all going to decline in some way.
Yes, sir.
That's the nature of life. It's life. And sometimes it's very rapid, sometimes it's slow. But to age adjust your art, I guess, is an art in and of itself. So how old are you now, Jamie?
I'm 51.
Are you really?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. I don't know what happened.
Makeup.
I wish.
Yeah. At 68, I have to adjust a lot now. My knees don't work anymore. I'm going to replace them now. And but you adjust. I still train quite a bit, and I do what I can. I do what I can. I think I'll tell you one thing. I think COVID took a lot out of a lot of people.
Yes, sir.
COVID did a lot of damage, and I know Linda and I both feel it. We've got every long COVID symptom in the world, so you battle that, But such is life, and you have to that's your lesson from martial art is, I'll tell you a good story. So my old training partner, Brian Seaman, he was involved in the defense industry. He
Okay.
at Rosemont, they made the gyro mechanism that makes a cruise missile, keeps it 6 feet above the ground. And they also use it for the fighter planes. Because wherever the pilot looks, you don't aim the munitions in a fighter. Wherever you look, that's where it goes. It follows your eyes. Anyways, so he's in this meeting with all these generals, and it's the Pentagon big wigs, right? And everyone's so nervous and whatever. He's so funny. He looks around the table and he goes, "Hell, I can take all these guys," which is probably not true. Maybe it was true for him at that time. But the martial art gave him confidence to do his job and to speak what he needed to speak. And I've seen that in a lot of people where martial art will give them just a little personal confidence and the ability to do the difficult things in life. If I can do that training, I can do this. And there's a lot of that in martial art. But yeah, that speech from Dan where we're just going to go like that, I thought, yeah.
I I appreciate that, and I remember. I wish I could say I remember everything you taught me, but it's a lot. And but one time we were getting ready to start a class, and I had told you that I wanted to get really good, but I'm not an athlete. And you looked at me and you went, "You are an athlete." And you said it in such a way, which is like, pardon my language, but get your shit. We're going to start class. It's time to start going. And it wasn't whatever, but I wasn't an athlete as a kid. I didn't do a formal martial art. I hated gym class. And if it wasn't for martial arts, I'd be on the freaking couch all the time. But you told me that changed my perspective on myself and the martial arts and so much. Can I ask, how do you build confidence in students who doubt themselves?
Boy, we were just talking about this. That's the number one mistake that beginners make is doubting themselves.
Yes, sir.
They worry about how they look, how they move. Oh, I can't. This formulation of I can't. Do you remember Muhammad Ali said, "The person who says I can't and the person who says I can are both right"?
Yes.
And that's true. I think he said it much cooler than that. We're working on Muhammad Ali combinations in class right now.
Nice.
So I get to tell Ali stories, right? Yeah, the new person and how they feel about it. I like to, well, just in general, I like to focus on the enjoyment of the art. Martial arts should be enjoyable.
Yes.
And this idea that everything has to be hardcore and we're going to go like this, we'll go like this. Michael Jordan said, you have to build the love of the game first before the hard work. Build the love of the game first, then we'll talk about getting to work, getting to work. And there's a lot of work, but it shouldn't be drudgery. It shouldn't be made into some kind of punishment almost. That's not really what this is about. And I firmly believe that, first of all, everyone's experience of martial art is uniquely their own, and it's equal to everyone else's. There's no superior experience of martial art. So you take the rank beginner who just wants to learn a couple punches, good, enjoy it. You take the seasoned veteran tip of the spear special forces guy, that's your level, right? You take the competitors, whatever, that's their level, okay? And each of those is equal. There's not one better than the other. So I've seen so many beginning groups or beginning people really improve their lives just with a little basic martial art, just with a little basic training. I just had one guy come back, was it Saturday? He came back in and he had tears in his eyes. And he says, I haven't been here for 5 years. We moved and but he's back. And he said, this place saved my life.
Yeah.
I've heard that a number of times. Those days I feel good about.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I love when they talk about smoking because they always swear at me. Can I swear on here?
Yeah. Well, yes, sir. You could do whatever you want.
Okay. Because they always swear. I don't swear a lot, but they always swear. They go, I started training the Thai class and you made me have to give up the fucking cigarette. And they always say that to me. I'm like, I feel good about that. Yeah, I feel good. If you had to give up the cigarettes, awesome. But I have had so many people talk about this art and the training and the method, and then MKG in particular has a kind of atmosphere, a kind of vibe about the place. I liked when my student Mike Lee, he was so funny. He was having real troubles. And he said, Steve, when I leave work, I can turn left and go to the collie group, or I can turn right and go to the bar. And he's honest enough to say, most of the days I turn left, most of them. And I thought that's great. People going through divorce, people going through real life struggles, and we all do.
Yeah.
I always say one thing: don't skip the gym. Get there and do something. It's why we have the whole variety of classes. I'm sure you've noticed that you can do anything at the collie group. I mean,
Yes.
MKG. I mean, if you want a heavy rolling jujitsu session, you have that. If you want the heavy Thai boxing sparring session, you want that. If you just want to hit pads a little bit, you got that. We've got some CLOC classes. You can just do a light collie class. We say fundamentals. So maybe you just use two sticks a little bit. But there's this whole spectrum of things that you get to do there. And each person needs one of them. Actually, each person needs all of them, but they'll gravitate to one. And then sooner or later, as they look around, they'll go into the other ones. But I had a guy start out last night at the Edina School, 65 years old, never done anything before. And at the end of the class, he was jazzed, Jamie.
I
I mean, we did some pretty basic double stick. We did some more advanced stuff with disarm, whatever. And then I let him hit focus mitts. He thought it was the greatest thing in the world. He was just cranked about it. And so I think we have to have something to offer for everybody. And your experience of this thing we have is uniquely yours.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nobody out there where, let's say I think some great people have come through MKG.
Yes, sir.
Some of the preeminent people out there have come through us or at least learned with us. But there's not an Eric Paulson or Greg Nelson or Rick Young or Terry Barnett or Udo Mueller or whoever. There's not one person out there who I would say their experience is better than yours. It's just uniquely theirs. You can't be Eric Paulson. Thank God, because the world only needs one of those.
when I went out to the academy last time, there was a gentleman that Guro Dan was talking to, and I told him this, and we laughed about it, but I was like, "Huh, that's funny. Who's this new person?" And then he walks past me, and I go, "Are you Rick Young?" And he starts laughing, and later on in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, I got to be a part of that, and for just a minute he was going to throw me, and I remember you talking about his throw, and I get crazy nervous, especially in front of instructors and my seniors. So I was like this, but I felt, I'm going to say, 4%, and he didn't throw me, but that initial kazushi, when that starts to come, and it made me think about how you were talking about him over the years and all that good stuff, and it was an amazing experience.
Stuff about him. He was connected with, so at the Edinburgh Club where he trained, the British judo team trains there. So the Olympic guys are there. And he brought me down there a couple of times just to, I tried to move around a little bit with him, but didn't too much. But judo was one of his original strengths. And he's a phenomenal athlete anyways. Just one of the greatest talents out there. And, it's interesting how Dan Inosanto seems to have these people. Rick Young is not only that talented, but he's that level of human being as well. And they seem to go hand in hand. I see some other groups where that's a little off kilter, but I can't say enough good about him. Anybody has a chance to train and learn under Rick Young, take it. Because, I treasure those days. I remember going to Edinburgh many, many years, and I'd stay at his apartment. And he was one of the few hosts who would get up and train with me.
Really?
To get up. He was a postman at that time. So he'd get up at 4 a.m, go do his route. He'd do his postal route, come back, and I don't know, be 10 o'clock or whatever. And of course, I'm still sleeping on the couch or whatever. And then we'd go down the park and kick Thai pads and stuff. So I really treasured that. I thought, can't say enough good about him. And we've kind of lost touch over the last few years, but he's a phenomenal positive force in the art, that's for sure.
You are as well. He had kind things to say about you. And a
Oh,
couple weeks ago, I had Tuhan Harley Elmore on, and we spoke of you for just a second. And he said, he's like, "Oh, that's Rick, that Rick is one of the best." And it's,
oh, thank you. That's
yeah,
nice. Yeah, it's fun to see. I watch these guys on Facebook generally because I have to do Facebook for work, and I get caught scrolling through it. And
yeah,
Charlie's on there he's got good ideas. He's got really good ideas. He's
yeah.
much more into the combat aspect of the art than we are, but boy, he's the real deal.
Yes, sir, he is. One of the questions I asked him, I also wanted to ask you, which is, how do you balance tradition with innovation in your curriculum or your teaching style?
So tradition gives us the guideline, the sort of directional flow of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In innovation, this is the part that Bruce and Dan were so adamant about keeping in Jikendo, is you have to be open-minded, and I mean truly open-minded to something coming in. And we all have barriers. We all have barriers. The biggest one for JKD people is, oh, we got that. We already got that. And I watched Guro Inosanto when he took up the Cambodian boxing.
Yep.
And he's there and he's so fascinated. He's like a little boy. And he goes, Rick, they go punch and elbow and then they need the leg. And I'm thinking, Guro, you've taught me this for 40 years. But these new guys are doing it. And he's fascinated enough to go and see just the tiny little bit of difference. That happened when the CELOC came around, when Bukti Nagara started with Pendagar Paldatois, and we started doing more sweeps and throws. He says, Rick, it's the same things you've learned in Kali, but he improved it by 10%. Just the levers a little bit better, and with all of that background, he was still open to looking at it and saying, okay, I can improve this 10%. And I'm not sure I'm like that all the time because I get a little bit mentally lazy. But we should look at each thing and say, oh, that's an improvement. So I just talked to or communicated with, I didn't talk to, emailed the Mitt Master, Matt, I'll think of his last name in a minute. If you look
Yeah.
at Mitt Master,
Uh-huh.
I bought one of his packages and he wanted to know. And he says, well, you taught this and taught this. And he was very complimentary to me. I said, look, I love what you're doing because you're moving the art forward. All of those
Mhm.
ways to train on the focus mitt, that's improvement, that's innovation. And I guess the biggest example I see right now of that is, I think you know this, that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seems to have invented leg locks.
Yeah,
And
yes,
I'm
sir.
kidding about that. But they've discovered leg locks, right? And I was just telling the guys on the mat, because with all that shoot wrestling background, and then later it became CSW under Eric Paulson, the leg locks were always there. And it was simply a matter of either we didn't allow them. So when we were rolling, I didn't allow heel hooks,
Mm-hmm.
no heel hooks and stuff like that. It's too dangerous.
Yes, sir.
And they're finding that out now. They're finding that out now that a lot of people are hurt. But the jujitsu's strength, I thought, was the leverage, learning to fight with proper skeletal structure. Like John Machado told me, he says, you fight with your bones, not with your muscles.
Yes.
And that concept, once you have that concept, you talk about the tradition, that's the tradition. Jiu-jitsu should be gentle. They called it the gentle art for a reason. Now it got wrestlerized. The wrestlers all got a hold of it, and it's hard and it's like that. And that end of it existed, but your background, your first part should be gentle, learning to use structure
Mm-hmm.
instead of your muscles. And then when you have that as a background, now you ask about innovation. So, okay, we're going to allow leg locks. We're going to allow leg locks. Okay, great. Well, if you have that other background, you're going to come out much better as you add new things. Same in college. If you have a good, I want to say traditional or a good solid background,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to go and do heavy sparring or whatever it is, that background matters. It matters. And personal discovery matters.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what Jeet Kune Do saying is what it was, right? So it was absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is specifically your own. And that's, we're supposed to research our environment. What environment are we in? The one mistake I will say that I think martial artists are making now is, personally, I think they're preparing for, I know they're preparing for a single opponent trained in the same art in a well-lit padded area with a referee. Okay, that's only a small part of martial art. That's
Yes.
not how martial art was designed. So a lot of arts are more multiple opponents. They're more worried about soft tissue strikes. You're outmatched. So how do you handle any of Greg's fighters or Brock Lesnar or somebody like that? Well, I'll tell you what you don't do is you don't MMA him. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
His game. And that was JKD. The first lesson I was taught in JKD years and years ago is you kick a puncher and you punch a kicker. So you take them out of their game. And so we have to be conscious of all that, keep that in our background and say, okay, what game are we actually preparing for? And the real answer for martial artists is life. It's the game of life. That's what we're preparing for. So if you're worried about self-defense, let's say that's part of your motivation for training. If you're in a hardcore group and you're injured of shoulders, knees, neck, you're injured 3 months out of the year. Okay, then 3 months out of the year, you can't really defend yourself because your training has debilitated you. You're injured. And then over time, that thing we talked about going down slowly,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to happen. It's going to be a much steeper decline because you're injuring the body.
Yeah.
And so a part of, let's weave this back to the ecological approach. A part of the problem that we have putting martial art into the ecological approach is martial art is damaging. So if you put a good Silat man in an ecological approach, he's going to paralyze someone because that's how the art is designed. That's what it's designed to do. Is, when you're taking the head over your knee and doing all that stuff. So all he did was perform his art correctly in an environment that you set up, but someone's going to get paralyzed. And I think you might know when Pa Herman was younger, they actually had a Silat tournament in Indonesia. And he got paralyzed. Pa Herman was paralyzed.
Really?
Yeah, and they brought him back with herbs and massage and things like that, but he was paralyzed in the tournament. So this ecological approach assumes that we've got skills built up, that they're built up for a competition that is relatively safe, and that then we can shove the athlete in there and have them problem solve. If we have an art form that say, and I'm not trying to make this, well, I'll just say what I'm going to say.
Yes,
If we
sir.
have an art form that utilizes all the soft tissue, so the throat, the eyes, the groin, whatever, that utilizes all the anti-joint stuff. So we're trying to break elbows and knees, stomp ankles, etc. We have a different type of leverage system where you're trying to off balance and then slam the head into the pavement. Things like that. Well, these are all things that you can't do in that ecological environment because we want the athletes to come out safe. That's the NFL right now is all about safety. That's what they're working on, is safety, which is great. That's great. I kind of disagree, but it's great.
Sifu.
Like the old days.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say thank you. You made me love Jeet Kune Do again.
Oh,
There was years where there was just too much stuff that was going on and too many whatever. And you made me, like, when I became an instructor underneath you, I was like I was responsible for the material again.
yeah.
And I started to learn more, and that really helped me. And it's something that I thought you'd get a kick out of too. Is at our school we had a gentleman come in, and I had no idea because he had done some Kali, and most people spend they're like, well, I did this and I did that. He did some Kali. Turns out he was with Guru Dan back in the not like 1990, and he did a bunch of things, but he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he never even told me. And one day in class, he says, "So I'm going to go down to Texas. I'm going to go down and get my black belt." And I was like, "Really? In what system?" He's like, "Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu." And I was like, "Huh." And so when and I would have asked him regardless, black belt or not, but I always wanted a program for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu at our school. So he started teaching, and he's been able to go with and learn from some Machados and Hicks and Gracie and just phenomenal teachers.
Yeah.
One day we were doing our AIM program. Towards the end, we had an extra 10 minutes, so we did a Harimau Silat thing. And he was like, "That's amazing. That's amazing." So we just started a Silat class once a week at Affinity. And he religiously comes to it. Well, he's a doctor, so sometimes he can't make it. But what he sees there are leg locks. And so when we're in jujitsu class, like a true JKD man, he'll bring it back around to, then there was this thing that Jamie did in our Silat class. And next thing I know, the same people who do jujitsu are all doing our Silat program.
Oh, good.
And it's amazing. And also, there are moments when he'll tell me to do something and I'll go, "I don't understand." And he'll go, "But you just did it in the last class." And I'll be like, "Huh?" And he'll
Yeah.
take a piece, and it's just an amazing thing that we have going on. I'm so blessed right now at Affinity, and I thought you might get a kick out of that. Uh,
I think that's the way to go.
yes,
You know,
sir.
I try to push the jujitsu guys to go to the CLOT class, and some of them are doing it.
Mhm.
Not as many as I would like, but that's always been what I would like to return to. And you know, so a number of factors happened with my involvement in grappling and CLOT at the Collier, and there was some life events that we don't need to talk about, and there was also my body started to degrade. The
Yes, sir.
arthritis, so I was unable to do some of the things that I used to do. And but my desire is still to have a truly integrated grappling program. And grappling set out as part Silat, part Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, part shoot wrestling, part JKD. And then
Mhm.
we would put the other arts, wrestling and judo, in that, the little things that we took from them in there as well, and truly be integrated. As my involvement got less, we were hiring jujitsu instructors
Mhm.
to teach, and then it became only jujitsu, right?
Yep.
We got involved in all the political things and the backstabbing that exists in the jujitsu world. And now we don't have that. We're pretty well set, but it's still just jujitsu. And I don't mean that just as a diminutive. I mean
Sure.
it's doesn't have those other influences in it right now. And I think it's absolutely obvious that each of those arts has something to offer.
Mhm.
When you look at a guy, do you know who Mal Marni is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a fantastic guy. And I look at those principles, not exactly how we do things, but I
Mhm.
look at those principles and I've learned a lot from him. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take little things and change them. And you know, Peter Kwong is still the CLOT guy for us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that happened. Well, this is a funny story. So I was the CLOT guy because I was really into that. When we were doing it under the Pendekar Paul de Trois and Guro Inosanto, I thought this is the coolest thing ever.
Mhm.
Okay. So along comes this Pa Herman guy, who is, first of all, the real deal.
Yes, sir.
This guy, anybody who was there would not do the "oh, CLOT doesn't work" thing. That just wouldn't happen. And nicest guy ever, really, really sweet guy. But he was doing things that this big Midwestern body wasn't designed to do. And we're doing these little squat positions. And I remember looking over at Peter and I said, "This is you. This one's you." And I let him kind of take it. And I tried to stay with it a little bit, but he's a phenomenal talent and thinker in the CLOT realm, in that art. He has the right mentality. From what I saw, he has the right mentality, the right, concept drives function, right? So your concept is correct there, and that drives the function that he's doing. And yeah, that again, combination of Silat, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, shoot wrestling, because they're different, and then the JKD approach where it was some judo, some wrestling, etc. I'm happy that wrestling made its way in, because for so many years Greg Nelson was my training partner.
Yes, sir.
Division one wrestler, so darn it. And by the way, one of the most talented athletes I've ever met. Do you know when he went to college, he went to the University of Minnesota, and obviously as a wrestling school, that's one of the top 4 or 5. And they said, Greg, you can do either sport, wrestling or gymnastics. Pick your sport. We're going to give you a full ride either way. That just doesn't happen.
Mm-mm.
That kind of thing, you don't see that happening. But he was always that level of athlete. And yeah, he won the state wrestling tournament with a broken sternum. He broke his sternum early in the matches, and he went on to win the state tournament. Just to show
Wow.
how determined he is. Yeah, he's a phenomenal character.
Yes,
Lucky.
sir. I've always wanted to train with him and like see like the beginnings of what the clinch would look like as opposed to a trapping range, like how they deal with things. I've always wanted to train with him when it comes to that.
Yeah, he's the best in the world right there. Once he gets a hold of you in that, and it's interesting. He's a smaller guy, but he sure doesn't feel like it. He gets a hold of you. No, he's literally in the clinch range. He's the best in the world, I think. So I haven't felt anybody that's had that before. And the understanding of leverage, and it's all the different trainings. It's his understanding of wrestling going in. The gymnastics helps, and then you put in all the Thai training he's done. Going back and forth to Thailand, training under Master Chai, doing all this, and now add the jiu-jitsu and the shoot wrestling to what he's done. His ideas of leverage and where to push and where to pull, yeah, second to none. So yeah, if you get a chance, for me right now at this stage, he's a little intense.
Sir.
So that might be just me getting old, and because he's got, he's the guy with motivational sayings taped up all over the walls, and he lives it. He lives it. That's
Yeah.
what I say. He was too tough for cancer.
Yeah.
He beat cancer. Should have died. Too tough.
Me.
Or too stubborn. One of the two. Yeah, if you get a chance to train with Greg Nelson, I say the same thing about Eric Paulson. And there's a lot of other good people out there, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to know those two characters pretty well. And I don't see anybody better. I really don't. I can't imagine. You mentioned Rick Young. If I put those 3 at the top of the grappling pyramid, I think that'd be about right. Yes.
Sounds pretty accurate, Sifu. Sounds pretty accurate to me. Could I now take us into our speed round, sir? And I
Yeah.
know we already kind of touched on some things, but I just wanted to go through and do the speed round with you if I could. And I appreciate it. This is something that I'm trying new, and you're going to be the 3rd person ever. So this is what we're going to call a rapid insight speed round here. Sifu Rick, what is one training habit everyone should start tomorrow?
So be a good training partner. Show up on time. Have your stuff ready. If you're going to wrap up, have your hand wraps. If you're going to glove up, etc. Don't keep gloves that stink. So you're not fun to train with then, right? And leave your personal problems out of the training session, but show up on time, either when you say you're going to be there. Be ready to go, and then be attentive to your training partner. Attend to the training. This idea that I see it every once in a while, in the middle of training, they run over and check their phone. That would never have happened. You mentioned Greg Nelson.
Yes, sir.
I dare you to go up to Greg's gym and get involved in one of the sparring classes and then run to check your phone. I'll video.
I'd rather not, Sifu. I'd rather not.
But they want total concentration. So I would say that being a good training partner would be one. The second part of that would be precision.
Okay.
I think we've lost a lot of precision of motion. One of my interests in keeping Wing Chun alive at my school is Wing Chun is a lot about precise motion. It's a very precision-driven art.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have Sifu Francis coming up, in, what is it, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? So, and I'm going to keep my allegiance there, partly because I've known Sifu since the early 80s, but, and I think the world of him. There's not a better, I've never seen a better Wing Chun performer than him. I've never seen anybody better at applying that art. He is just, do you know what a good compliment is?
What's a good
So
compliment?
he was out teaching at the Inosanto Academy, And one of my other students was standing there next to Guro Inosanto, watching Sifu Francis teach. And Guro leans over and he goes, people asked me what it was like to be in front of Bruce Lee. And he points over and he goes, that's what it was like.
Oh,
I thought that was a pretty high compliment. So, but back to
yeah.
what I was saying. I think in the MMA era, we've lost a lot of precision.
Hmm.
Throwing big round punches, the idea of a straight blow or a very precise blow is kind of lost. We've gone too far with the idea of if it works, then that must be the right technique. We've gone too far with that because you can make anything work. If you're a good athlete, I mentioned Adrian Peterson. If
Hmm.
you taught Adrian Peterson Polish sparring, right? And we used to, he would make that work.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Sifu.
He's just that level of athlete. So the question for us is not exactly what works, although that's an important question. The question is what is appropriate and correct. So for the lines, the forces that we're dealing with, what is the correct or appropriate technique, the closest possible alternative in that situation? And that's guided by obviously economy of motion and energy and all of that stuff. But what is the actual appropriate thing? Because you can make anything work. We could just have a jumping hammer fist class and
Yeah,
everybody would jump up and hammer fist, and about 10% of the class would be able to make it work. They'd go out and beat up somebody with a jumping hammer fist. One of the better stories is one in Detroit. They had a guy, and I have not met this guy, but he was working in a club, and guy comes with a gun, sticks up the club, right? And he was one of the bouncers. He does a flying sidekick over the bar, knocks the guy unconscious, and he's the hero. Now, I don't know that means we're going to teach flying sidekicks from now on, right?
yeah.
But it was the moment. So, anyways, yeah, I think precision of motion and show up and be a good training partner.
Yes, sir. What is one habit that martial artists should stop immediately?
Stop comparing yourself.
Amen.
Stop comparing yourself. Linda has a sign in her gym. Comparison is the thief of joy. And that's true. Don't compare yourself to others. And importantly, don't compare yourself to yourself. What you used to be is not what you are right now. And I live this. This is my life. And I can't do the go back there. I
Yes.
go back and reminisce just to laugh once in a while and, tell stories. I've been blessed enough to have interesting experiences and interesting things happen to me or happen around me. But don't compare yourself. You're do what you can do and be thankful for what you can do.
Mm.
Even if it's sit in a chair and flex your fingers, be thankful for it. Do what you can do and be thankful for what you can do.
That's the best answer to this question so far, sir. Number three, something beginners worry about that doesn't matter.
How they look. How they look. You can see them trying to pose. They're trying to make the correct, and they lose this idea of it's not a pose, it's a function. There's a reason we stand, we move, we hit in certain ways, certain lines. So focus on the function and just forget how you look. You look fine. You look great. And it used to be, my answer would have been different years ago. It used to be hierarchy. They would worry about the hierarchy, who's the brown belt, who's the black belt, who would I have to bow to. Now that's not so much anymore. But I think it looks to me like they worry a lot about how they look, and they should worry about the function instead.
I I remember you telling one time, it was years ago, and I still think about it to this day when it comes to like social media. You said, I remember back in the day where you could throw a punch and not have to take a picture of it.
Hey,
And I was like, that's awesome right there. uh, Number four, what's one principle that applies equally to martial arts and to life?
so I struggled with this one. Uh, is all of it?
Yeah.
Because there's so many lessons. Um, I would say probably the big words would be perseverance, things like that. But even little lessons about how to put variables together or, how to sort of problem solve through a complex equation. How do we get through this? And whether it's stick work or disarming or whatever, some of this stuff is complicated. And applying that to your life, some of your life is complicated. But if you take it piece by piece by piece, just like you did when you were learning that disarm, go back, you say, okay, I want to put my finances in order or whatever. All right. First step at a time, one step at a time. Let it build. Progressive improvement. And that I think is one of the things that you can take into life is just, it ties into that last one, but do what you can do now and then progressively improve. If you can do a push-up, I was telling somebody the other day, because you have to adjust. I remember for many years, I would roll out of bed, do 100 push-ups and start my day. That was how my day started. Now I get 5 sets of 20 on my knees, and I do some other stuff. And I have to tell the Guro Inosanto push-up story, though, if you don't mind. I know we're going to go over, but
it's fine.
I asked him a question about push-ups, and it was specifically about angles, different angles of push-ups. How should I do it, and how would that affect my striking? They call striking now. And he stopped me halfway through the question. He goes, Rick, I didn't do the 1,000 push-ups. I did 500, and then I had to rest and then do the 500. And all of a sudden, my question just went away. Thank you, Guru. Thank you. Okay, I'll just go away now.
Yeah.
He's that phenomenal a talent. He's just, anyways, I think they're over the moon.
Number 5, hardest lesson martial arts has taught you.
We already talked about it. Father times undefeated. Your body changes. And also, what is the Garth Brooks song? Tougher Bronx. Anyways, I'll think of the Garth Brooks song. But the martial art in general has gotten harder. There's a lot of accomplished martial artists. And so to perform well in this environment, you have to keep going to a higher level, which is great, by the way. It's exactly what we wanted to have happen. Years ago, I remember Takashi Uchino, we did an interview in Japan over there. He says, what's your dream? And I said, well, I would like to see millions of people doing stick work, doing Kali. Well, look where we are now.
Yeah.
We've got millions of people doing Kali. And okay, they're on Facebook arguing about who's who and all that. That's just them being people. But it's literally that. And some of it is good ideas, and then others still needs development, but some of it, they have really good ideas. And I look all the time. I always go on and say, oh, okay, I could use that. Or they put this together, put that together. The base is still there. I still think, having said all that, what Guro Inosanto handed us, and I told the guys years ago, I said, you guys, this is the most accomplished martial art influence in many lifetimes, many generations. And he comes to your town and hands it to you. In any other generation, you would have had to change your life completely, move to another culture just to learn one of those arts. He comes and he's got 50 different single stick influences. That's just in the single stick. And the blessing that we've been given to be alive in this time where Dan Inosanto is active, and because it's going to be just stories now, and pretty soon, in a relative sense, pretty soon, and it'll just be stories, and I want to keep those stories alive. So, and I it's funny. People say, well, won't they be exaggerated? I'm not sure you can exaggerate Dan Inosanto. I mean, he's not Superman, but
pretty close. I don't know.
Superman.
Yeah.
I think we should all be, that's a theme in my life, is thankfulness.
Yeah.
And we should all be thankful that we were exposed to Dan Inosanto and his influence, and then carry on in that vein. So, but no, I would say the toughest lesson is just time.
Yes, sir.
You'll lose certain abilities. For me, like right now, we're trying to do a speed bag video, and it's been weeks of me trying to get the speed bag back. Trying to get it back into some semblance of, I can do this set of drills. I pared it down years ago. I cut down the number of different drills I did, and there's, I think, 10 or 12 that are essential for martial art. These motions we use in martial art, but just getting it back is hard. And I don't want to look bad on the video, but just getting there is, I may have to use some of my students. I'm blessed with a lot of wonderful assistants, and Linda being the premier one right now. But I can look to her and say, okay, will you show this? Even though I can't do it, will you show this?
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got people coming up underneath us. I don't think she minds me saying she's going to be 61. So she's, she can still go to the ground and all that. But a 61-year-old woman, no matter how much I think she's Superwoman or Wonder Woman, she can only do so much, right? So we have younger people coming up that can demo.
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill for me to swallow. So I want to jump in there. I want to okay, could you just do this? I walked over to the mat the other day, they were doing some leg locks. I said, can I just show you a couple of variations on that? And the kid looks up from the mat and he goes, oh, did you used to do this? And I just went, okay, I get it.
Oh.
He's only been there 5 years or so. He's relatively new, and I'm like, but that's where I'm at. That's where we all will be. And so you asked about the hardest lesson. I would say, Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah.
We're blessed as martial artists. I got asked this the other day. Somebody asked if I hang out with other 68-year-olds. And the answer is not too much. I have a little joint I hang out in, and there's some old people there, older people. But generally, I'm not around anybody my age. They're all younger. And I think that's a wise thing to do. Stay around younger people. Yeah. It allows us to disagree with them, too. Back in my day, I get in public quite often, I get compared to Robert Duvall. And they say, for some reason, I look like him. So in Italy, I really got mistaken for Robert Duvall. But that worked out well in my favor. But have you seen the movie Secondhand Lions?
Yes, sir.
Those two guys sitting on the porch with a shotgun in their lap?
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Yes, sir. I could see it.
That's going to be my role in martial art, is to be Pug McCann. Yep, I like that. I like that. He was a great, he's worth looking into. Some of these people, Hollywood gets a bad rap, and justifiably so. But he was one of the good guys. He was really one of the good guys. And his life and accomplishments are worth looking into.
Yes, sir. Final question. It's an optional one. What does being formable mean to you personally?
Well, it means you're still in the JKD mindset. So that's what JKD was designed to do. So they changed martial art. They were truly a revolution. So I know a lot of other people push back on this. They're missing how significant it was. This was the 60s. All sorts of things are going on, right? You've got Woodstock, you've got the sexual revolution. You've got the fighting against the war, Vietnam War. You've got all this stuff going on. They came in, and martial art at that time was the system mentality. So if I'm a Shotokan person and you're a Wing Chun person and we have a fight and I win, that means Shotokan is better than Wing Chun. No, it doesn't. It just means one person was better on that day. And so they started to look at martial art in two different ways, completely radical ways. They started to look at it as a personal thing, individual. So we have to individualize this. So it's not me trying to make you look like a Shotokan man. It's me trying to make you a better Jamie. And that is a completely revolutionary thing. Then in service of that, they started looking at all of these different martial arts as what are the qualities that practicing in this art will impart to our students? What do they get out of it? Let's go into the Muay Thai for the endurance, obviously, the power, the structure, the knees and elbows, but there's certain things that we get from this. Let's go into the Wing Chun, not to be a Wing Chun man, but to gain sensitivity, to understand certain structures and sensitivities. And so once they started that formable word that you're talking about is that. As you go into this, you have to be open enough, deep down inside, like personally open. This is way beyond open-mindedness. This is personally open to say, okay, I'm open to this thing changing me. And as I go through, and that's going to happen in all respects. So it's not just changing, oh, gee, my bicep got bigger, or it's not a physical always, right? It's up here, it's in here. There are big changes that go on by practicing these arts. And is one of the reasons I would keep pushing people to stay involved in all of them.
Yes, sir.
As many different arts as you can. If you're a Thai boxing guy and that's your deal, I get it. I love Muay Thai. Practice Sabat. Go and look at Sabat. Definitely take a look. I miss when Salim was still alive, because he was one of the better kickers I've ever seen. Daniel Doobie is actually the best kicker I've ever seen. But practice these other arts. Silat is that world. if you're in one CLOT system, that's why Guro is so amazing, because he takes so many different CLOT systems and he just gives it to you as CLOT.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go through a lot to do that.
Yes, sir.
Go through a lot to make that work. And that's true all the way through his training. That's true. He's taken different influences. But yeah, FormABLE means that you're open to change and big change. So that's I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the art, actually.
Sifu Rick, thanks for coming on today. Your presence in my life has made me a better Jamie, and I sincerely appreciate it. And you're not only you, but through your students like Josh Pryor, uh, a whole different avenue of things I thought I knew got opened up to me, and I sincerely appreciate you and all your hard work. And I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
I look forward to it. I got to tell you, just on that vein, I got stopped in the grocery store a few days ago, and it's one of the guys who owns one of the bigger jiu-jitsu and MMA schools in the Twin Cities. Huge place, big name, and I won't use his name, but big name. And he stops me and goes, "Are you Rick Faye?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Thank you for all you did." And it was just an acknowledgement of all those years coming up. I was telling a guy last night, because he was there for the Thai boxing, and I thought it was great. And I said, we started bringing Thai boxing to the Twin Cities, I think it was 83, and nobody wanted anything to do with it. I had to stay with it because of Greg. Greg was into it from day one, right? And same with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We brought Machado up, John Machado, and the judo people were all there. It's just good judo. They didn't want anything to do with it. Look at them now.
Yeah.
All the rage. So, yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, Jamie, I appreciate this. I really do.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best, and I will see you this weekend.
You got it. It's Jamie Sparling, FormABLE Podcast. Like, subscribe. Sifu Rick Faye, head instructor and founder of Minnesota Kali Group. Check out their online program. It's this unique, great amount of information, but it's also bred of community, and that's what you'll get if you go and train with Guro Rick. Come see us.
Plug the online you, because we've got so much information on there now. I don't see other people have as much. There's just so much, no matter what the category is. You want a category of training, it's on the online you.
It is. We'll see you next time. FormABLE Podcast. Thank you for watching.